Rolled chords. One of the most beautiful and harpy things you can play on the harp, and one that most students want to learn as soon as possible, and understandably so. But they can sometimes prove to be a little frustrating when you first start learning them because they can be a little bit deceptively challenging. So in this video, I'm going to give you my 4 rules for beautiful rolled chords. Let's go. The first rule for a beautiful rolled chord is to think of all the notes in the chord individually and not as a group. This is a little counterintuitive because something that students really often misunderstand is kind of thinking of the rolled chord as this nebulous event where all the notes just kind of happen. But truthfully, a rolled chord is made up of individual notes, just like any other notes you would play, and so we need to make sure that every individual note, every individual finger is taken care of and doing exactly what it's supposed to do. If each note in the chord is totally under your control, it's going to sound much clearer and cleaner than if you kind of just push off and hope for the best. So that begs the question, okay, how do I get all my fingers to play under control and play normally? Well, I like to kind of just like roll the chord, starting with the bottom note, and then adding a note, and maybe doing that a couple times, and then adding another note, adding the third finger on your next hand, yeah, also known as your right hand, adding the second finger, and of course then adding the last finger. As you're playing this build-up exercise, you want to make sure you're playing each finger as you normally would, starting slowly and building up speed a little bit at a time as you go. Rule number 2 is stay relaxed. It is really hard to control your fingers when they're tense as all heck. Your fingers will end up playing when the tension just kind of trips over and not when you want them to play. And tense fingers are going to create a much more harsh sound instead of that beautiful rich tone that you want. So when you're practicing your rolled chords, you want to first of all check in with your body. There's often tension secretly stored in places you didn't realize, so check in with your chest, relax your shoulders, maybe check in with your neck, check in with your hips. See if there's anywhere that you're holding on to tension. Maybe even your hands are kind of clenching a little bit. See if you can just kind of take a deep breath and let go a little bit. Then when you actually go to play your chord, think about playing your fingers as though you're softly petting a cat or a dog, depending on if you're a cat or dog person. Rule number 3 is close your fingers. And we especially want to make sure that outside fingers, so I'm talking about like your 3rd, 4th, 5th finger, we want to make sure that those are all coming in together. Closed fingers, where you're bringing your fingers flat into your palm, means better tone and less tension in your hand, leading to a more even roll. Now, there is a time and a place for not closing your fingers completely when you're playing more advanced repertoire, but if you're struggling with a chord just kind of to start with, work on closing those fingers, and sometimes you might be surprised. You might have more time to close fingers in a piece than you think. Now, my last rule is to keep your hand position steady. A steady hand gets steady tone and steady evenness. I often see students trying to play their rolled chords by kind of dipping their thumb back and dipping the wrist down and forward because they feel like they don't have enough leverage to play the thumb. But even though the thumb feels like it might need this extra bit of leverage to play, it actually makes it harder to get that leverage on the thumb. Instead, we want to think about pushing the thumb forward, and we want to be careful that we don't overcompensate and roll way too far the other way, but we want to think about playing from the tip of your thumb and pushing that forward. So you can see how my hand position is staying completely steady, not tense or stiff, but just consistent. If you can follow those 4 rules, you're going to get a beautiful rolled chord every time. Now, if you want to be ready for any rolled chord you might see in any song, it's a really good idea to learn different chords and different inversions and different keys. So if you want a resource for that, I actually put together an exercise book a couple of years ago because I couldn't find anything that did that. So link is in the description for that. And if you want some more practice for rule number 2, which is relaxing as you play, which is often easier said than done, check out this video next for more tips on how to do that. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you later.